Hello, we're live here at the AICPA Corporate Finance and Controllers Conference, and I'm here with our closing keynote speaker, Amy Radin. Amy, say hello to everybody.
Great to be here. Great to be in Las Vegas, and great to be at a live event.
I hear you. So you're on the board of the AICPA-CIMA.
That's
how
right.
We've come to get to know each other. And you wrote a book,
Yes.
Changemaker's Playbook. So I've got it. I wish I brought it here to have you sign, but you're going to be doing a keynote about how finance can enable innovation.
That's right.
So tell me how you got to that point, because I think we're all curious about how we as finance professionals can actually support and enable innovation as opposed to being the CFO that we're often known for. So tell me how you got to this topic.
Yeah. So I spent my corporate career professionally in consumer financial services at big brands, mostly Citi and American Express, AXA, and these are large, highly regulated, risk-averse, conservative, very shareholder-driven companies. And people like me, I felt the finance function often thought they were there to protect the company from people like me, because we were the guys who were always coming in and saying, the world is changing, we have to do new things. We don't exactly know how to value them, we don't exactly know where we're going, but here are the trends, consumers are changing, and we've got to get there. And to an organization in a big established corporation responsible for finance, that's like, whoa, show me the business case. And so we work really hard to build a relationship and reframe our notion of what a partnership with finance teams should look like, but also sought out finance partners who were willing to adopt a different mindset of true enablers. And those partnerships, not only with finance, but with the other analytics functions, were absolutely critical to the success of the things we did. A lot of times people think innovation, it's about the technology. Technology is important, but these issues of how you partner with finance, how you value your investments, how you rethink your processes and make decisions to allow innovation to flourish become much more important than technology.
So yeah, it's the people side, right? We were talking about that earlier. We have a white paper that was released pre-pandemic that was talking about finance transformation, and it's called Finance Transformation, the Human Perspective. And it made this thing about mindset is like 38% of success of a transformation project.
I'm surprised it's not higher.
You're probably right.
And there's a lot written about this notion of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset.
Yep.
And innovators have a growth mindset, and to be a successful finance professional enabling innovation, it's really helpful to embrace what a growth mindset is. So fixed mindset people see their learning as unchangeable. I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it, and that's it. That actually is that becomes a very negative force for teams that are trying to drive innovations, not only because that mindset will demoralize the team and drive away the change makers, the business. You always need some of those people around, It will drive them away, demoralize them, but it also will kill the ideas.
Yeah.
So this idea of having a growth mindset is critical.
Yeah. And I know you're going to cover, you've got a whole list of things, like 8 enablers for finance, but tell me about your experience with finance teams, from your side. Like, what was it like trying to do innovations, and what did you encounter with some of the finance teams in your place?
Yeah, I have a lot of stories. I can laugh at them all now, other days, but I definitely cried. First of all, I think not everybody is going to be great at innovation, and so I think it's, one of the things that we did, and certainly in each corporate role that I took on, is to understand who really wants to be on board, who's open, and who just doesn't want to play, right? And I think the people that don't want to play, I'd say, you could be limiting your career success, so I revisit that, but in terms of getting things done, we really focused on who's on board and really curious and wants to go there, and who is like, well, I'm not sure, but I'm open. And so we built relationships with people who we felt, and very often those people self-select. You know, they're the people who volunteer to come to your brainstorming sessions. They're the people who stop you in the elevator. They're the people who send you an email. So if people raise their hands, it's pretty easy to find the people who are interested. But we had some funny experiences. Like there was one where we wanted to license technology from a startup company. And so we went through our due diligence, and they were offering something that could be, that we felt in the digital team could be a real positive disruptor to the customer experience of using our card for e-commerce. And it was really important to make our cards, city cards, a preferred card for people shopping online. It was the early days of e-commerce. And so we were ready to go. We had the deal, and so I said, okay, time to go to procurement, which you know is part of the finance function. My poor manager comes back to my office, you know, a couple of days later and says, well, Amy, procurement said, no, we can't do this deal. I go, why not? Because they lose money. I'm like, no, you're a startup. Startup companies are investing their capital in two things, sales and tech roadmap. They are planning to lose money, and you know, and obviously looking for that hockey stick to bring their sales up and get their tech roadmap. Still, that's the deal.
Right.
And so that was one of the first experiences I had. This had to be over 15 years ago, where I said, you know what, processes that may be just perfect and really robust to run a mature existing business. Where you're bringing in a vendor that's going to have a scale impact on what you do it, are utterly inappropriate for a startup. And so then, instead of applying the rules, I'd say that in that case, the procurement team or any finance person could say, like, hang on there, what's the problem we're really trying to solve? Like, why is it that we don't want to do business with a company that loses money? Well, there could be reputation risk, there could be execution risk, there could be risk to our customers. Okay, well, let's think through how we're going to handle those things. You know, what if the company goes bankrupt? Well, we're going to make a very small investment, in this case like $50,000 on a $5 billion P&L. That is not a big deal. We will budget to lose that investment. What if customers get involved in something that doesn't work? Well, we'll contact the customers, thank them for participating, explain they were part of a pilot program, and here's what happened.
They appreciate honesty.
They appreciate honesty to them. So there are other ways to solve the problem that the big no may work when you're dealing with something that, you know, you're talking about a test with a few thousand customers in a franchise of millions.
Yeah.
Other ways to handle it.
Yeah.
So that's where the mindset becomes so critical.
So it's that kind of future-oriented mindset, growth mindset that says you have to invest to make more money down the road. That's how innovation starts, right? With those little seed investments that then begin to be nurtured till you can get them to growth, right? So that's the whole point. You don't want to kill all the plants as they're just sprouting.
Right, and I often use the metaphor of, you know, when you have a seedling in a nursery, you know, if you have a little tiny seedling, you're not going to put it out in the cold.
Right.
It'll die. So innovations require that sort of nursery environment, and that comes down to different policies, different processes, governance, decision making, and a willingness to ask. I would say whenever, there's one thing your listeners could take away from this, whenever you're asked that question, whenever you're faced with, oh, we can't do this because, stop yourself and say, well, like, wait a second, what's the problem I'm really trying to solve here? And is there another way to solve the problem that allows us to feel protected, risk managed, etc., and also does not stifle the
Give
new
this
idea.
a shot, right? Give it a shot.
Yeah. How can we create the nursery?
Yep, love that. And then, so you just talked a lot about customer pieces, which I know are critical in innovation. So talk about finance and the customer and what your advice might be for the folks out here in the finance world.
I mean, I grew up professionally in marketing, which of course is close to sales, so always had a lot of direct access to customers, and grew up in a family business. I worked behind the counter in my dad's drugstore, so I'm used to like face-to-face contact with customers. I came across this study a couple of years ago that was published in the Harvard Business Review, where they had gone out and interviewed about 400 CEOs about how they spent their time, literally analyzing their calendars. And according to the study, respondents in aggregate only spent 3% of their time with customers. Now, that is just tragic, especially since I'm guessing a lot of those CEOs are the same people telling their employees that the customer has to be at the center of the business. So marketing and sales and customer service do not own the right to engage with customers. And I'd say the finance function tends to be too behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And you've got to find ways to have direct customer contact. Go to the focus group sessions and at least sit in the back room. Listen to calls in the call center. Go on a sales call. Talk to people in your personal life who may buy from the company. I mean, you've got to, the value of the qualitative insight, understanding the emotion that's driving why people do business with your company or why they don't like doing business with your company, will really enhance your effectiveness as a finance professional. And nobody owns the customer.
Yeah.
The customer owns us.
Correct.
And you've got to find ways that work within your organization to have more direct customer contact on some kind of periodic basis.
Awesome. So yeah, you're right. I think some great tips here for our finance professionals, no doubt, and certainly you're going to give a lot of that in the keynote later on today. But when you so talk about some final insights around what advice would you give all of our finance pros out here now? Where would they start to maybe they can start buying your book and the Changemakers Playbook and start looking at that? But seriously, what like tips and all do we want to? Where do we start?
Well, definitely, obviously, I'm not here to hawk my book, but I would love it if people buy my book, The Changemakers Playbook, How to Seek, Seed, and Scale in Innovation in Any Company. It's on Amazon. Or reach out to me on LinkedIn, Amy Radin, for more information. But I think really start to think about, growth mindset. How do you develop and you may think you have one already, then how can you develop an even stronger growth mindset, and what does that mean? And not just what it means theoretically, but how does it translate into behaviors? And then I think if there's one, getting back to my point about what's the problem we're trying to solve, the next time somebody from marketing or digital or IT or sales, the crazy people, come to you with a business case or, some investment proposal where they need your help, before you say, do not say no. Start asking questions.
Yeah.
How did you figure that out? How did you come up with that idea? Wow, who's in the market? What do you like about it? What do you, just start a conversation where you're, with authentic interest, asking questions, because you'll find if you take your time and do that, sort of peel back the onion, you'll find there's a lot there. It will increase your own understanding.
Yeah. And
through that dialogue, you will get to more effective ways to help that person than applying the old rules.
Love it. So, we have a whole initiative here at AICPA-CIMA to help finance pros move from a cost back to that fixed mindset. We're always thinking about historical cost. We still have that stewardship role that's critical for a CPA or a CGMA, but this idea of moving to a value partner, which is exactly what you're giving ideas about, because value partners are working with the business, the established mature business and all the new startup divisions, and they have to help them, water those seeds, if you will, and protect them so they can grow. And you just gave us some great tips on how to move into that idea of value partner. How do you start measuring things differently for a startup versus a mature part of the business, right? Those are all places where we can play an important role as CPAs and CGMAs in finance.
Yeah, not only an important role, it's a critical role. I think if the finance team doesn't do it, I think that portends real challenges for the businesses where finance doesn't do it. It's a really, really critical role for them to play.
Awesome. Amy Radin, thank you, and knock 'em dead today at the keynote.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.